we go. All right. Let's hope that it holds this time. Hello, hello. I'm going to give a moment for everybody to get on. I'm going to give it 2 minutes. So if you are watching the recording, then you can always jump to 2 minutes and we will start there. Please give your name into the comments so that I know that you're here. You can type in replay, you can type in live, you can type in anything you want. If there's something you want me to hit on, then you can let me know that too, especially if you're in the live. If you are in the recording, then asking a question, I will come back and answer, I promise. So just let us know. And if you are on YouTube and you're watching this and you're wondering, how do I watch it live? Then you can join us in the Aligned Human Circle, which is our private Facebook community. It's free, and it is about creating a community of aligned humans is the goal here. So that's what we're looking for. So please go ahead and join us. I'm just gonna, hello. And let's see if we can make sure that these comments are working. We'll give a couple more moments. It always says when something goes wrong with the comments. There we go. Hopefully that works. There we are. All right. Okay, so this week we are really focusing on presence as our power source, first and foremost. And you know, if you're watching the YouTubes and that sort of thing, we just did a YouTube this week on this topic. And here, I always like it to be a little more personal. So this is where, you know, we're going to have a little bit more heartfelt, centered conversations where it is, you know, us doing this together. So I wanted to talk about where are we leaking our power? And letting this be a question that helps us understand the concept of energy hygiene. So a lot of my friends, I'm always like, okay, but where are you leaking? And it's your job to protect your energy. So, you know, where are you leaking your power? And so, you know, that's the question I want us to start off with. And this isn't about it being a dramatic way. It's not in a shame way. It's like in small little quiet ways. So where are you leaking your power? And that, if you're watching the recording, this might be a place where you want to throw us a comment. And where are you leaking your power? Where do you notice it? Is it family? Is it work? And then I'm going to take this a step further, which is where some of our common places are. Because you might be thinking, I don't know. And I don't want to say my family or my kids or my husband or my work or any of those things. I don't want it to be a negative thing. So common things or common leaks of this, because it's not always about other people. Sometimes, you know, really it's about us. And so that's an important thing, and that's why I say it's not about shame, it's about building some awareness. So some of the common places that we leak: overthinking. So overthinking conversations after they're done, or fake conversations before you have them. And no, it is not planning. I don't care how many times you fake conversation in a car and you're just planning and happy. It's not true. You can't control an outcome. You need to stay grounded, stay present to have a good quality conversation. So overthinking is a big one. We will see this. I was just talking with a client about this, about social anxiety. Social anxiety is an example of when we're overthinking something after a conversation's done and we become anxious. Like, did I say that? What were they thinking? And so we might call it, you know, social anxiety. A lot of women that I talk to now, you know, it's not that we didn't have this happen when we were younger, but we were able to deal with it, or we just accepted it when we were younger. And as we get older, a lot of women are having a hard time with drinking. And they find that as they are getting older, if they have a couple of drinks, social anxiety is a thing. And instead of it lasting a day, like it did when we were in our 20s, we're now at a point where it's like lasting a week. And so it's just not worth it anymore. So just noticing that. Another place is doom scrolling. Doom scrolling includes, even if you are scrolling on your Instagram or your Facebook, it's, it doesn't necessarily like you're going down the vortex of looking for negative things. You're doom scrolling over something that's going on politically or something that's going on in our communities, but it's like doom scrolling. We're going down here. And what I wrote here was when already dysregulated. So there's one thing to come in and it's Sunday morning and you're just like relaxing, having your coffee, and you're on your Facebook feed and you're just like laughing and looking at some reels and you're just taking it easy. It's intentional, as opposed to a coping mechanism. So whatever our coping mechanisms are, that tends to be a great example of where we have an energy leak. Trying to control someone else's behavior. You can't. Yeah, people come into my office all the time and they're like, how do I get my husband to do it? How do I get my kids to realize? And I'm like, you don't. You just don't. I have recommended the Let Them book by Mel Robbins more times based on this one conversation, because there is scientific proof of when you tell your husband, you should be exercising or come to the gym with me or all these different things, and they will actually go the opposite way. You don't. The only way to create change in your life is to change. You can't make somebody do something, but you can inspire them. You can inspire somebody to change. You can inspire them to do their healing work. You can inspire them to feel more peace. So that is we can't control things. We just can't. Living in what if scenarios. So this is where our anxiety is born. Is, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? You don't even feel it. There's an anxiousness that comes up with it. And so understanding that, everybody goes, oh, you'll always have anxiety. Bullshit. Bullshit, you guys. We do not have to always have anxiety. It does not always have to be a thing. It is an emotion that happens, for sure. But we do not have to do that if we train our mind. I'm going to call bullshit. Just bullshit. We do not need to live this way. It is not required of you. You do not need to suffer. It is not true. I lived there for a long time before I realized none of it was real. What ifs are fake. What ifs? Everybody's like, I gotta have a plan A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And I'm like, awesome. How much of your life are you missing doing that? I'm all for having, being responsible and all the rest, but you do not need to do this to yourself. This is not... It's not responsible. We can call it all sorts of things. It's not. You're not present. And it's the lack of presence that causes the issue. So we can have a couple of plans. Well, if that doesn't work, we can always do this, or we can always do this, or we'll roll with it. In other words, we let ourselves know, our nervous system know we have options, and then we move on. Another place that we leak energy is replaying worst case futures. So very much to the what if scenarios, but where we're actually like playing them out. And so we see this right now, have a lot of conversations with our current political climate globally, our economics, people come and we discuss this quite a bit, worst case scenarios. Well, if that happens, we'll move here. Like, it's a big one. I talk about it with a lot of people, and it's like, will you? Will you really? Go uproot everything, lose your job, close your business, do all this. If this person gets in, we're going to go and do this. I'm like, we'll see. So, playing that out. But the reason I do that is because are you aware of the energy that's in your body right now? How do you feel? And the importance of this is the understanding, this is, first off, this is community. Like this is everybody. This is not, I have to work hard. Why do I brain dump? I brain dump to not do these things as often as possible. I still slip. I just have bumper pads in place now to help me get out of it as fast as possible. And brain dumping, doing intention work, reading spiritual work, there's reasons that I do those things, and it's to try and keep me on track as best as possible. There's always going to be things that throw us off. And this is because we're human. And as I said yesterday, I was talking with a group and they asked a question about alignment. And I said, at the end of the day, I always reserve the right to be human. I'm never going to be perfect. I'm not. And I don't want to be on anybody's pedestal. I am a human being, and I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, and I'm doing my best. And today, hopefully my best is a little better than it was yesterday. And some days it's not going to be, and that's okay, as long as I become aware of it and make a conscious choice to shift and change. And that's really what we're trying to work towards. One of the hardest things for us to understand is once we start awakening, once we become more conscious, we can't really go backwards. It's far more painful than it ever was before. So how do we leak power? So those are the things that we can do it with. So how do we leak it? So, this is really about understanding why or how our power leaks when we do these things. So, our attention is scattered is one of the big ones. People saying that they're multitasking. You're not. We see this in terms of connection. I actually had posted something on my Instagram. I had shared a clip from a podcast. I can't remember whose podcast it was. I like him, and I just can't remember his name right now. If I think about it, I'll try and see if I can find it and put it on here for us. He had a guy on, and the guy gave him a string. So he was holding a red string, and he handed the podcast guy a string, and they were holding it was taut. And he's like, this is our connection. We're connected through the spring. And he goes, tell me what's going on. And he asked him a couple of questions. And then he leaned down to go get something out of his bag, and the string went loose. And he's like, and he started, playing on his phone. And he goes, oh, go ahead, I'm listening. And he's like, no, you're not. You're on your phone. He goes, what was your first warning that something was off? And it was that the string went taut. Like there was no longer, we weren't connected anymore. And the first thing was a physical, I felt that. And then he became aware of what it was that was happening. And we do this all the time. We're listening to our spouse while we're answering a text. This is my number one place I have to stay aware of it. I've got 20 things on the go, clients messaging, staff, team, all the rest. We all have it, whether it's our kids, whether it's work, whatever. We've got friends, people are messaging us, and we're trying to have a conversation with the person that's in front of us. I cannot tell you how many times I've asked my husband 2 or more times, how was your day? Because I didn't listen the first time that he answered the question. And we have good talks about this because it's been a learning curve for me to you can't actually multitask. You can't actually text and listen to somebody at the same time. You think you can, you can't. They don't feel it. That's why we lack connection in our world right now. And so how can we recultivate this? So that's one way that we energy leak is our attention is scattered. We're trying to do 2 things at once and it's not possible. Energy is invested in what we can't control. So we can't control the weather. We can't control other people's behaviors. There are things we can control, and there's things we can't control. We can control things with our choices, with decisions that we're making. But that's within, those are within our control. We can't control how other people are behaving and acting. And then the other one is we are mentally in tomorrow instead of here. So, and I would even go into and we're mentally in yesterday instead of here. So both places kind of go into it. We get caught so far in the past that, we see this with kids. I had this happen with my son years ago. My son was playing baseball. And he'd always, been distracted and bird, butterfly, and he's not paying attention to the ball coming. And so New Year, he's gone through lots of changes. Baseball season starts. He's sitting in outfield and he's got hands on his knees and he's leaned in and he's ready with his, he's just ready. He's waiting. And all of a sudden his coach yells at him, Brayden, pay attention. And I'm like, what? And Brayden's still paying attention, but you can see this kind of confusion, I don't understand what he's talking about. And it made me just pause. And I realized that coach was not present. He was habitually calling out things based on his expectations of people's behavior, not based on the actual behavior itself. How often do we do that? How often do we not actually see somebody or something because we have an expectation of how they're going to behave? And we're not actually present to see if there's actually a shift or a change, because today's a different day. And so I would say, mentally we're in yesterday as well as in tomorrow. I gotta get this done. I gotta get this done. I gotta get this done. We're into the future. And so power doesn't leak because life is hard. I'm going to repeat that. Power does not leak because life is hard. Power leaks because presence collapses. When we are completely present, when we're in this moment, we're having this conversation, when we're listening, and we're waiting, and we can just totally take it all in, that's where all your power is. You can get so much more done by being present. Time expands. When we're worried about we don't have enough time, we're not present. As soon as we stop and we just get present with the tasks, we get all our tasks done in much less time than it took us to try and get everything done, worrying that we weren't going to get everything done. It's the spinning out of control that causes the chaos, that causes time to spin out. And so presence is where our power is. And so presence, it's an interesting one. So this is normal, right? Like everything I teach from and I've created has all come from my own personal experiences, both my own personal behavior and my experience of that behavior being reflected back to me. So I'll say that again, my own personal experiences of me behaving these ways and it being reflected to me when other people are behaving that way. And so the law of reflection gets beautifully shown to us, and it's based on being witness to that, becoming aware of it, that has allowed me to see these things play out so that I can start making a conscious choice to do something different than what's habit. So presence is not our default, not anymore. Naturally it would be, but it is not. And that's important. It's a practice. The world out around us is like a giant fairground. There's lights, there's sounds, like there's a lot going on, smells and tastes, and go here and do this, and it's exciting. And we're not present. In that moment, it's not like our feet are on the ground and I'm in the thing, and what do I want to do next? We're just running along, going for the next bright, shiny thing. And that's because that's the way that the world is built around us now. And so it's not our default anymore. Now it becomes a practice for us to come into. So where do you notice your attention running when you feel uncertain? Because times right now feel uncertain, politically, economically. We're in a crazy time. In a time when we should have, based on our history and what our wisdom that we should be extracting, ideally we should be able to be at unity by now. Instead, we are at a greater divide. And we're seeing more than ever rage and us versus them. Life feels uncertain. Am I going to have a job tomorrow? Do I have enough money to pay my mortgage this month? It is uncertain. Is my marriage going to make it? Are my kids going to be okay? Everything feels uncertain. And I remember when I got hurt, originally about 8.5 years ago now, I was listening to Pema Chodron, and I listened to everything that she put out at the time. And she had said the greatest lie we were ever told was that there was a ground. And she was talking about this, feeling grounded is groundedness. And what she was saying is we look for our ground outside of ourselves, in our job, in, like I feel safe as long as I can, get up and I have a job to go to the next day. But if I didn't have a job, then the world would feel unsafe. And it's like, but that becomes the problem because those things are outside of you. You don't have control over them. You do to an extent, how we perform and all the rest, but we don't when it comes to economics, to layoffs, to all those kinds of things. So we have to find the security and safety within ourselves. And so can we feel grounded within ourselves so that we can build the trust and faith up to be able to pivot when we need to cultivate true resiliency in a healthy way. And so where do you notice your attention running when things are uncertain? Is it into those coping mechanisms? Is it into the what ifs? Is it into doom scrolling or future forecasting? Where's your energy going? And I love in here, if you're, especially you guys watching replays and that, because I love that you guys do, put in here, like, where do you notice it? When is those times come up for you? And so in this, I want us to understand, because I always say presence is power, and there's a difference between power and control, and that gets confused a lot in our world. I confused it for years, and I had a real issue with the word power. Power was a trigger word for me, right up there with God. And one of the big ones was I was terrified of my own power. I was terrified of my own power and hurting somebody. I was, and a lot of that because people who it felt like they had power over me had hurt me. And so, this fear, like if I, stepped into my power, would that not mean I hurt people? Enough that I've talked about it a lot with my own coaches and therapists and close friends. Like, what does that look like? How do I make sure that I don't abuse my power? Because that happens, and we watch that every day in, the systems and people around us. We're seeing that probably now more than ever. So many people are going down the vortex of the Epstein files. And again, it's not that I don't believe in being aware of what's happening out there and being conscious of it. The question is what is it doing to your nervous system? Are you staying grounded as you're taking in this information? How, is it hurting you? Is it causing you harm? Or is it actually allowing you to cultivate a level of compassion? And so, these are, when I say uncertain times, we're in times where a lot of us, our faith has been rocked. People that we always kind of put up on those pedestals as being great humans, now things are starting to come out that are disturbing beyond anything that we can comprehend. We, acceptable in a movie that's fake, but unacceptable to realize those things are happening in real life, and especially in people that had power. And so we're in this really fascinating place of understanding the difference between power and control. So what is the difference? So control looks like tensing. It looks like tensing up the body, and we can feel that. I have to actually talk myself out of it. And so even like when I'm driving, I have to okay, relax your abs, relax your shoulders, relax your seat. Like I say driving a lot because it's a place I have space to do it in. Even when I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, make sure like you're relaxing your hips, relaxing your thighs. Are you in a grounded state, or are you tense? And for myself, with my, especially people who've had PTSD or complex PTSD, any sort of trauma, we don't even realize we're so tense. We have no idea that our pelvic floor is sitting in such a state of tension. I don't need to do Kegels. I need to learn how to soften that thing down. And so it's the opposite. Can I soften into my body again so I can get a proper breath? Control looks like speeding up the mind. So control, when we're trying to control things, we talk faster, we loop. I don't have time to journal. I don't have time for that. We get faster and we start spinning things out. Control looks like things feeling urgent. FOMO is a great example of this, where people are trying to control how we behave and our outcomes, and we create FOMO. And so, is that a true statement that somebody's making, or are they trying to get us to impulsively make a choice? And so control often looks like urgency. And it also feels heavy. So all of a sudden you go into your body, and if I'm trying to control something, everything feels heavy. It feels burden, like there's a burden there, overwhelm. Very, heavy burdens from the world around us as well, from ourselves. Power's different. So true power. So you can see where all the issues come in here, because a lot of times when we think of somebody having power, what they often are trying to do is control people. And true power is very different. And I say that because power in itself is divine. It's the highest vibration of love and light. It is like real power flows through us, and it is what we're made of. It hits our heart, it expands in all directions, it is beautiful, it is unlimited, and we have a wellhouse of it. It is so incredible to be in flow state, to really tap into our true power, where we can make change in one person's life, in one moment, in the world. And so power looks like it slows the breath. So I was asked a question yesterday. I was speaking at an event, and how do we know when we're in alignment? And our breath slows and we become present. That's where power sits. When I have a conversation, or I'm answering somebody and I'm completely present, and I've slowed my breath and I'm making sure I'm hearing them and I'm understanding the question, there's so much power in that conversation. So much more than me being in a state of urgency of answering quickly, flipping something through, going on, and not paying attention. It also feels like a softening of the shoulders. When I want to have a difficult conversation, I purposely ground deeper. We have a wood countertop at home, and I'll spread my fingers out and put my hands on the counter. So I feel that, the strength of the wood beneath my hands. I feel my feet into the floor. I take deep breaths and I start breathing into my belly more, so they can really ground and anchor into the conversation. It feels steady. The greatest example I can give that of, like, what does it feel like to be in alignment? It feels steady. It's like the eye of the storm. Chaos is running. We don't have control of the world around us. I have control over me. I'm sitting in my power and I'm just present. It's okay. And it feels grounded. It's just a different state of being. So I just want you to notice that in your own body. Notice the difference. Even if you feel that, like you're trying to control something and you think about somebody right now or a situation you're trying to control, and I want you to bring it to your mind and feel that in your body. What does it feel like when you're trying to control your kids, your spouse, outcomes, money? What does it feel like? Just take a moment, let it be there, and be honest with yourself. Just feel it. And then I want you to just feel that for a moment and then just pause. Take a breath. I want you to soften your shoulders. Maybe you roll your neck out. Take a moment, loosen your hips, loosen your thighs. Feel your feet. And just notice the difference. When you got present with your own body, present in the moment, how did that feel? So the contrast of that really becomes the teaching itself. So noticing what that difference is between feeling controlling and feeling true power. When we can really start creating alignment. When all of a sudden, when we ground, we become aware of our thoughts. We become aware of our emotions. And that creates the feelings. So the third energy, frequency style that we create with. Thoughts, emotions, and feelings is what interacts with the field all around us to create the world, to create our lives. And so when we get present and all of a sudden we come into this moment, I can take the breath and I can start to choose. What do you want to feel? What emotion do you want to emote? What do you want the field state to be that you're creating from? And now I can start to choose. That's where all my power sits. And so I wrote here for our micro returns. So practical. So really this is about giving a power reset here. So putting your feet on the floor to respond to a message. I do this work a lot with people, especially when we're working in corporate. And I want us to feel in. I really give a lot of work towards brain dumping. And there's a reason for it. And it's because instead of the resentment coming out of your mouth, we can simply write down the words, I feel resent, or I feel resentment, or I feel resentful, or I'm resenting so-and-so. And we can just stop there. It doesn't have to be 10 minutes. Just write it down. Acknowledge that. And now take the breath. Don't excuse it. Don't justify it. Just take a moment, feel your feet. Now what do you choose? So I put down here, so feel your feet on the floor before responding to a message. Take one breath before opening your social media. Can we be present? Said again, pulled into some drama that's out there. Ask, is this mine to carry? I carry and have had a habit of carrying things that do not belong to me. It has been a big work to put stuff down that doesn't belong to me. I can love on somebody and put it out there, but I got to leave it to them to deal with. And it's hard when our friends and our loved ones are going through hard times. But it's not our journey. It's our journey to be there to support, not to take it on. It belittles them, takes their power from them. Even if they want you to be able to take it on, it's not empowering. in the story, the prince and princess save themselves with great support, love, and admiration from those around them. So it's not that we leave people on their own, but how can we do this together in a healthy way? And return to your attention to what is actually in front of you. So when we catch ourselves and we're worrying about our kids or we're worrying about something else, where are you? Are you here? Where are you right now? And so that question is another one that can be really powerful to get us back into this moment. So, when we don't reclaim our power in dramatic moments, or said we don't reclaim our power in dramatic moments, that's usually when we're being pulled way into the eddies of life. Instead, we reclaim our power in micro moments. And so think about that. It's just in those little moments when we catch ourselves and we come back and we create a new habit of being present. So remember in the beginning I said habit, or presence is a habit that we need to create. It's a ritual that we need to do. And we need to put effort into that ritual just like we would anything else. It's building a muscle, so to speak. We need to put in our reps. Easy ways that we can do that is setting alarms on our phone. I call them a presence pause. So we take, 2 to 3 deep breaths. We come into our body. Where am I right now? Am I here? And we can set alarms on our phones 3-4 times a day that we call presence pause. Are you here? Are you present in your body? So how presence changes relationships. So really trying to think how does this affect everybody around us as well? And so, presence, when we can be present in the moment in conflict. So I've put things down. So how presence changes conflict. So conflict. I've been going through this a lot lately because people bring me big freaking problems in our world. And then they challenge me on my beliefs of the middle path of having compassion and remembering that we are all divine beings. And hence why I put my hands on the counter and I'll take deep breaths and I ground into my feet and I stay super present. Because if I can stay present, I can see their fear and not react to it. I can just say oh, okay, they're speaking the energy, the frequency, the field that is pushing the tone out is the field of fear. And so can I ground in and get super clear and present so that my responses allow for us to start to entrain together at a different pace, at a different frequency. And so the more present we become, the greater we can navigate conflict. So instead of antagonizing conflict with reaction, it actually allows us to take a moment and go, yeah, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this anymore. If we feel ourselves getting charged, it's the ability to say, I can feel myself getting triggered. I'm going to take a time out for a moment and I'm going to come back to this in 3 to 5 minutes. Walk out of the room, hang up the phone, whatever you need to do. And it is a powerful practice that helps us build confidence in ourselves and helps build confidence in other people in us. And so it took me a long time to do this, but I practiced this a ton with even my son, where I'd be triggered, he'd do something. And I remember that he said to me, what I do is not a reflection of you. And I was like, ooh, as a mother, I disagree. And I had to really work through that. And I was like, you know what? You've done the best you can with what you have. He has the right to make his decisions and choices. You learn through your mistakes, so to speak. Were they mistakes? Not if you learned. This is the only way we know. And so I had to realize I was doing that. And so I had to learn the practice, and then it took a bit to get into it. But when he would be talking to me, I'd have to actually say, okay, sweetie, I can feel myself getting triggered. My ego is well engaged. I'm going to take a step back. Let me go to the bathroom and I'll come back in a few minutes and we'll pick it up. And that allowed him to be able to have faith and trust in me, to have hard conversations, to trust that I'd stay present with him and not be going off into my past or into the future, doom, all the things that we do. And so it was able to really not only help me, it's funny, the next thing is parenting. So here you go. It allows us to be present in that conversation with them. in that also is like the phones, like that piece I was saying to you guys. Phones are probably phones and smartwatches. I have started not wearing my smartwatch unless I am working out or walking. I have taken it off now for when I'm at work, even though one of the reasons I got it was so that I would know when clients message me, that sort of thing, and I had to take it off because I would have recognized as it was taking me out of presence. It was, going off and I'm in the middle of a conversation or a meeting and then you're looking at your thing, your phone, right? Like it's too much. Too much. So what do you have around you that is interfering with your ability to be present with your children? Is it a TV? Is it your phone? Is it your watch? So, but when we can get more present with people, that's the moment that we can cultivate deeper connections. The one thing that I've heard continuously over the last, I would say 10 years, is that people, the one compliment that I've gotten over and over again is my ability to be present with somebody. That when I have a conversation with them, they can feel completely heard and completely seen, other than my husband. And the reason I say other than my husband is because he's the one I have the worst freaking habits with. He's my safe zone. And so, like I said, I can ask, like, yeah, hey, honey, how was your day? And he's like, oh, it's good. What'd you do? And he's telling me his day, and I'm responding to somebody. And 20 minutes later, I ask him the question again. And I know I've done it because he starts laughing. And I'm like, shit. Okay. And I put the phone down, and I look at him, and I go, me bad. How was your day, honey? What'd you get up to? And it's like, and it's hard. It's hard to not multitask. So, to be fully present with somebody, to make the choice to really see them. And if you've had that in your own life, you know how powerful that is. Most of us don't realize that's the people we trust. Why do you love that person so much? Because when I'm with them, I feel completely seen and completely heard. And because they're present with me, I feel safe. The people that I love but I don't feel safe with are people who are not present. They scatter their attention. They're with me, but they're answering phone calls and text messages. Oh, I've got enough. And I'm like, you go, dude. I love you, but I can't do this. I don't feel safe around you. And it's taken me a long time to create the language around that and to ground myself and stay present enough to have the courage to have those hard conversations. So, this is presence, and how it can change conflict is being able to hear somebody's fear, hear their anger, and just not get involved in it and still hold our own line. And if we can talk quietly, firmly, slowly enough, then it will slowly start to get through. Mahatma Gandhi was a phenomenal example of this, where he would have conversations with people that were literally at war with their country, and he would sit and listen to them, listen to their rage, listen to their anger, listen to their fears. And the people that were supposed to take him down ended up being, like, one guy ended up becoming his bodyguard. And so, like, you think about things like that, like, we can change the world when we get present, when we are willing to have conversation instead of shut each other down. Which is how it changes in our parenting. When we have different opinions than our kids, when we can teach them how to be present and ask good questions instead of just telling them why they're wrong. How it changes us in our leadership, in work, with clients. Leadership not just in business, but leadership in life. With our children, with our friends, with our spouses. We're always in an opportunity to be in a leadership role. Leadership isn't power over somebody. It's being responsible and representing a path. And then how it changes within our marriage. Well, as I just said, nothing kind of screws your marriage up more than just ignoring your spouse and not listening. So when we get really present, we can see them. We can hear them. We can see their pains, their frustrations, their stuff they're going through. They might have a lot on their mind and we're not getting it. And sometimes the more present we can get, we just stay when they don't want to answer, we can be present with them. We can start having beautiful conversations that cultivates that deeper connection there as well. Presence isn't just self-regulation. It changes the entire room. When we get present, our nervous system calms down. That's how we create alignment. Our nervous system calms down when we are present. If your nervous system feels safe, because you, the witness, is there. And so this is how we can cultivate this, every single moment of our day, but one little micro choice, one little step at a time. I would love to have a conversation on this. So, questions. You can put them in the comments. You can also message me on Facebook Messenger. You can email me questions that come out. I always love questions because I'll often use them as topic as we're moving through these things, but also because I've walked this path a long time on my own as a solitary practitioner. Most of my teachers were given to me at a distance, and so being able to ask questions and feel like, oh, okay, it gives me some bit of answer is powerful. If you want to take this a little deeper, I'm trying to be very good about making sure that I give the opportunity. I do have our Align Your Life group coaching program, which is where I teach the 12 laws of co-creation. One first Sunday of every month. It is recorded. You have access to the recording forever, but the recording is there, and then I teach for about an hour and 15 minutes, and then I open up to what we call Love Seek coaching. So one-to-one coaching where you can ask questions about that law or something else that's going on in your life, and how these things can pertain and help you with them. And so we've this month coming up, March 1st is our next session, and we will be working on the law. We're on law 4. The law of choice, the law of authorship. So you are the author of your life. And this is, presence is the proceeding for it, because when we get presence, we can actually make conscious choices. And so this is the direction we're leading into. So I'd love to, if you joined us there. I can throw the link in the notes here in the description for you to join us, and it's never too late. So that goes, 12 months of the year, we're going through the 12 laws. So we just pick one month. Each month I have a different law that we're going to be talking about. And then we move on it for the rest of the month. There's workbooks and meditations and all sorts of stuff there. So I'd love to see you there. Also, we have our YouTube channel and the podcast, The Aligned Human Project. The podcast is on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, iHeartRadio, pretty much every platform that there's podcasts. I think I've got pretty much on all of them now. So that is there for content to support your journey. I hope you guys have an amazing day. I appreciate every single one of you, and I look forward to seeing and chatting with you soon. Bye for now.